WL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the country. Now, you're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of over there? Because over there, they do not care about what you have to say. They say this all the time. They don't read any of the comments. They talk down to us. They say this literally at least once a week. But I think it's the opposite. So I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing you've ever heard, then also please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions, let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and it's turning into something truly, truly special. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really proud and excited to be part of. And I think we're well on our way to doing it. So without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching a clip of First Things First with, talking about, is this Josh Allen's, biggest game of his career against, none other than the Patrick Mahomes. Okay. I got some thoughts on this one. I can't say that this is the biggest game of his career, because I don't know, why would this game though be bigger than, say, the last couple times that they face each other? Why would this game be necessarily bigger? Is it because they're technically favored and that they're home, and so it's kind of like this revenge type game, and so then now that makes it a bigger game? I think it's a tricky question that you can kind of get caught up in, because we make these statements a lot. This is the biggest game of your career, and I don't know. I wonder, was that game for Tua against the Chiefs, was that the biggest game of Tua's career, or was it another game? Was it another game that we don't even really think of because maybe the stakes weren't as high, but it really changed the perception of everyone of viewing Tua as he was, right? Was maybe, the first game with the new head coach McDaniel, was that the biggest game of Tua's career? I don't know. So I just don't know if we can say, this was the biggest game of said person's career, because I don't know what does that actually mean though? What are the stakes? Is it because of our perception of that player? Is it because what they could potentially win in terms of a Super Bowl, an MVP, public opinion? It all depends. Because really the biggest game of Josh Allen's career then probably was that game that he lost against the Chiefs, that big shootout, because that was the game that really solidified Josh Allen as a dude, right? That was when everyone was really like, Josh Allen can get it done. I mean, obviously they lost, but no one was doubting Josh Allen at that time. And if you were doubting Josh Allen, then again, you're just a hater. You're just hating for no reason. This game, I think if they lose, right? If Josh Allen throws 3 interceptions, or, and just doesn't play well in general, I think put it this way, this has the potential to be the biggest game of his career, or in terms of both positive and negative, where it could either impact him incredibly negatively, where people now start to question, can he ever get the job done? Or if he plays really well, then it just kind of proves and solidifies more, right? If Josh Allen plays really well and wins this game, I don't think we learned something new about Josh Allen. I mean, again, if you did, it's just because you were already not liking Josh Allen. So I don't think Josh is going to convince you of anything. If he throws for 4 touchdowns and throws for 300 plus yards, no one who didn't like Josh Allen or think that Josh Allen was good suddenly just says, wow, Josh Allen is good now. So you're not convincing anyone new. So I don't know then, where you're swaying this opinion. But if he doesn't play well, what it ultimately does is it gives fuel for the people who've been saying Josh Allen is not that good. In a lot of ways, like what Nick Wright kind of keeps saying, Josh Allen, is not as good as everyone wants to make him out to be. That's what it does. It gives the people like the Nick Wrights of the world more fuel to be able to say that. So that's why I don't necessarily say that this is the biggest game. This would be a bigger game if the Chiefs were, or if the Bills were genuinely favored to like win the Super Bowl this year, right? Like if the Bills were seen as the 49ers or the Ravens. Right now, outside of people's opinions and fans, it's pretty much seen that the 49ers and the Ravens have the best chance at winning the Super Bowl. Now, this would be a bigger game if the Bills were considered to be one of those two teams, where it was pretty much like, oh my God, no one can beat the Bills this season. They're unbelievable. They are just demolishing teams. But wait, now they're going up against the Chiefs in the playoffs, and the Chiefs, 2-0 against Josh Allen and the Bills. This is his biggest game because he has to slay this dragon. But that's not the case here. In fact, there was a whole debate prior to this of whether or not the Bills should even be favored, right? It's 2.5 points at home, which is it's a coin flip essentially. Like that's what 2.5 means when you're home. It's just literally like it's a coin flip. We just give you the 2.5 because you're home, and that's it. So it's one of those things where I don't see it as being, and that's why I don't think it's the biggest game, because the Bills aren't expected. The Bills, if the Bills won the Super Bowl, that would be actually pretty surprising, honestly. I mean, it would be. It would be like, wow, they were able to really finally get to put it all together right now, and they really were able to go on a run, and that was like, unbelievable. I mean, it would be one of the best runs probably in the history of the NFL at that point, honestly, considering the start of their season. The only team that would have a bigger run would be technically the Packers. If the Packers now go off and win the Super Bowl, you would be like, okay, that was the most insane thing that ever happened in the NFL. So I just don't think that we can look at it from the perspective of this is Josh Allen's game to lose. I don't see it that way. The Bills aren't this juggernaut of a team, and now they're just going up against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
I think by far. I think it's unequivocally top two. The only argument you could make is the AFC title game in the 2020 season, but that was such a different spot. That was a Bills team that was ahead of schedule instead of behind. They were playing the defending champs. That Chiefs team had won, do the math here, 20 of 21 games going into that game that Mahomes had played, or 22 of 23, something insane. And the Chiefs were the favorites.
And it was in Kansas City.
And it was in Kansas City. Now, after that game, the GM Brandon Beane said, we are obsessed with the Chiefs. We are building our offseason around beating them. You then got your shot the next year and had as soul-crushing of a round 2 loss as possible. Then the next year fell apart before you got your shot. Now you're at home. It's a Chiefs team that is, of the Mahomes era, statistically the most vulnerable. And these windows don't stay open forever. So I think that this is far and away the biggest game of Allen's career. And I think that is a huge edge for Kansas City, because it's the third biggest game the Chiefs have played in the last 365 days. And so the game against Burrow in the AFC title game was a huge spot, and obviously the Super Bowl. So, yes, I think it's the biggest game of his career.
I agree with Nick, but to me, if you don't reach a Super Bowl, every player that has not reached a Super Bowl, the biggest game of your career is your next playoff game. That's it. I mean, for Joe Burrow, who's reached the Super Bowl, this wouldn't be the biggest game of his career, even though he hasn't won one. So Josh Allen, the championship game against the Chiefs was huge, but he has to get to the Super Bowl. Period. So this is the biggest game of his career.
That can't be, because then under that logic, the Steelers game was the biggest game of his career. That's not true. No one saw that as the biggest game of his career. That doesn't make any sense. So I reject that. I don't really know what he means by. I mean, I know what he's trying to say, but that doesn't really, when you really kind of hold that up to scrutiny, that's not true. I mean, does anyone really think that the Steelers versus the Bills, that was the biggest game of Josh Allen's career? It doesn't make any sense. There's just absolutely not. So I disagree with that. Yeah, I don't really know. That doesn't make sense.
His career. Guess what? If they win this game, next week's game
no question.
will be the biggest
yes.
of his career. Until you win the Super Bowl, that's how it works in my mind. The next playoff game is the biggest of your career.
But you're also hinting
Or
that
get
this
to a
pressure
Super
is going to squeeze Josh Allen, even though they've been in kind of these little
They've
must
been
wins
in
for a while.
playoff mode for
Yeah, I think it's very
almost
different.
2 months now.
Yeah, I think that the fact that I oddly think their success in the regular season against the Chiefs psychologically can work against you. I think it's like, wait, we own this team in the regular season, and in the playoffs, we've never beaten them. I think the fact that there is, aside from Von Miller and Leonard Floyd and a couple other guys on the team, nobody's played in bigger games than this one can hurt them. I think the fact that Sean McDermott and Andy Reid has played in 15. Coached in, Super Bowls or conference championship games. Sean McDermott's coached in 1. And the other, and I think that's where being at home can be a weird spot. Because you can feel, if the Chiefs get out to 7-0, that is going to be a nervous energy in Orchard Park.
You think so?
That is not there on the road. I have felt
14
it.
nothing. Maybe
10
7
nothing with the ball,
score,
something like that. So your buddy and my pretend internet friend, but your actual friend, Bill Simmons, gave a cross-sport analogy that I want to bounce off Brew. If the Bills lose this game, Dominique Wilkins' Hawks, which was, gosh darn it, man, they should be able to break through. And I know they never even made a conference championship game, but there's also like he had the epic round 2 duel where he might have outplayed Bird, but they lost. They didn't lose to Bird every year. They lost to the Pistons, they lost to the Sixers, lost to other teams. But this Hall of Famer, unicorn, maybe most fun player to watch in the league, who just couldn't break through for a whole era. And you've said previously that, at some point, Allen's going to beat Mahomes in the playoffs. At some point, maybe if they don't win this one, maybe not. Because
oh my God, I'm going to go nuts. I can't keep combating these nonsense narratives. He's inventing these nonsense BS narratives. Football is the ultimate team sport. Let's stop acting like the Bills have had these juggernauts of teams that are going up against the Chiefs and the Chiefs are just punching them back in the face. It's just not true. He just admitted about Andy Reid playing in, coaching in 15 games that are the AFC, NFC Championship or Super Bowls. That is extensive history and resume experience that someone like Andy Reid has. That matters. It's not like Josh Allen has that backing behind him. So what he's saying is just wrong. So just enough with this nonsense. If you want to say the Bills organization maybe as a whole, I would be okay with that. But Patrick Mahomes is not Josh Allen's kryptonite. Since when is losing twice in the playoffs suddenly just this epic kryptonite? I mean, I don't understand. It's one thing if they lost 4 or 5 years in a row or something, then I would say, okay, that's kind of crazy. Or that there was times that Josh Allen and the Bills were the number 1 seed, ready to take on the world. They had Super Bowl hopes. They were favored to win the Super Bowl. And then Patrick Mahomes came up and said, nope, not today, and beat them. Then I would say, okay, that has never been the case. That's never been the situation with Josh Allen and the Bills versus Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So they're making stuff up right now, okay? Making stuff up right now. Josh Allen has been playing with one arm behind his back every single game against the Chiefs in that regard, okay? Because he doesn't have Andy Reid. He doesn't have Travis Kelce. He didn't have Tyreek Hill at the time. He doesn't have all of those things that Patrick Mahomes has. So it's just nonsense. It's BS and it's absurd. Now, if you want to say that, that the Chiefs organization doesn't do enough, or that the Bills organization doesn't do enough, yeah, that I can agree with, because they still are, keeping up with Sean McDermott, right? Signing him and extending him was absurd and is insane. And if that continues to happen and they don't give Josh Allen the support that he needs, then he should force himself out of, the Bills. That's more on the Bills, not on Josh Allen. Give Josh Allen a legitimate, genuine team with a legitimate, good offensive head coach or offensive coordinator, and Josh Allen has proven that he can do magic. He had 1 year with a good offensive coordinator, 1 full season, and he lit the NFL up. Okay? That's what happened. Brian Dable. Look it up. Not that hard to remember it. Wasn't that long ago. So, again, you guys want to keep creating these narratives that, that it was just like this unstoppable force that just no one, that the Bills were just this unbelievably amazing team, but they just can't get by the Chiefs. That's never been the case. As I keep saying, outside of you fans that really understand the NFL, please name me 3 players on the offense for Josh Allen and the Bills. You can't, okay? Everyone always just wants to say Diggs. And again, now there's other names that are coming up. And again, if you actually follow football and know names, that's fine. But I guarantee you know more Miami Dolphins players. I guarantee you certainly know more Kansas City Chiefs players. You know, I mean, you just do. Again, they have literal household names. People that are their head coach is on commercials, more commercials than a pop star. Like literally, Andy Reid is in more commercials than Taylor Swift. So it's just asinine to keep painting this picture. It's not fair to Josh Allen. I mean, it's really, really not. And so I reject it. I really, really do. I don't think it's fair. These aren't equal teams. They haven't been equal teams in the past. This is technically probably the most equal team now, but Andy Reid is a major benefit. I mean, it obviously is. The guy's had unquestionable success for damn near 3 decades in the NFL. So it's just insane, you know? So there's just no way. But that's the way I see it. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one. Let me know in the comments below. And please don't forget to subscribe. And definitely please do give this video a thumbs up, as it really helps with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.